Hi everyone, welcome back to Fireside Chats with Arcteryx, and I'm Sarah Knapp from Mappy Hour, and today I'm really excited to talk to the Mappy Hour Chicago co-founder and chapter leader, Erica Zazo. She's also a freelance writer, so hopefully she's going to be able to provide a lot of tips and inspiration for all of us looking to get our work published and share our stories. Hi Erica.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's start at the beginning. When did you know you wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, we could go like all the way back to 8th grade if we want to go that far. When I knew that I had a knack for writing, I feel like a lot of people might relate when they have like that one teacher who called out like a good assignment they turned in, or like mentor they looked up to. But yeah, my English teacher in 8th grade loved this story I put together for a short, like creative essay that we were learning to write, and that always stuck with me. So when I went into high school and college, like I knew I wanted to study journalism, and so I did that at Michigan State University and got a journalism degree, but I actually got a minor in public relations too. So I realized that maybe being a journalist, and specifically I studied broadcast journalism, might not be what I want to do, being an anchor on the news. But I decided to take an internship out of school and move down to Austin, Texas. And it was there that I kind of fell in love with the outdoors, specifically merging my love for the outdoors with writing. And I decided that maybe I could write about these small outdoor trips I was taking outside of the city in a place you wouldn't normally think about hiking.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it started.
So what were some of your first pieces that you wrote about the outdoors?
Yeah, I was fortunate that my first real like freelance piece was with a major publication. It was with Backpacker magazine, and that came about because my aunt, who is also has a love for hiking, showed me a Facebook post that the editor of Backpacker magazine was looking for writers in non-traditional hiking regions of the US. And so I was living in Texas, like I mentioned, and I really just reached out via this Facebook post saying, I live down here and I have a journalism degree, like I'm happy to try and put something together. So that was my first freelance gig, was writing about a trip backpacking in Oklahoma, and how to do it. And so actually, I don't have the magazine here with me, but that ultimately turned into like a contributorship opportunity for me to continue after I turned in my first piece. And so like I just have an example of my first second big feature. This was a Michigan hiking trip, but basically just that relationship that I built being in like areas that you don't typically think of was just something unique that made me stand out as a writer and help me build that relationship. So I keep my magazines that I have my articles in, and this is like actually a note from my grandma, who was like somebody who really would like let me sit down and read my stories that I wrote to her. And this is like her sticky note with my name on it from when she had it when she was with us. So I don't know, it's just little things like that, like seeing your work in print. It's just got me going. Yeah.
I feel like that's not totally normal to like see a Facebook message and then become a published print author, or do you think that for most people it's just, is it luck? Is it a mix of like connection? Like, how do you even do that? Do I just pay attention to Facebook posts, or how do I become, it sounds like you leveraged an opportunity really well, but yeah, I'd love to know like if you have any advice for complete newbies on how to get to that.
Yeah, no, it's a completely like right place, right time circumstance for me to have had that happen. I think what other people can relate to in this situation is that you have to kind of find as a writer, like what your niche is and what your story is behind the story you've been trying to tell for yourself, and why you want to be a writer. And I think relationship building is so important for freelancers. Before asking, like you should tell and share yourself and your story about what you want to write about with an editor, and try to build that relationship before going gung-ho. And so that could be as simple as like finding editors that you really admire online and finding a story that you like, and as a fellow writer, reaching out to them over email and just introducing yourself and saying, hey, I thought that piece on, backpacking in this, like, in Colorado was so cool. I loved it for these reasons, and just building a genuine relationship first. And then also being able to tell your story of why you're the writer to do what you're saying you want to do.
Right. Cool. And what piece of writing that you've done are you most proud of?
Yeah, I write for a number of other smaller publications outside of Backpacker, but I've always had this dream of, I live in Chicago, so writing for the Tribune has been something that I've been challenging myself with over the past 3 years to like build up the confidence to pitch them a story. And so I was trying to think of a way to, I'm a big advocate for the outdoors here in the city, which we preach through Mappy Hour, live in the city and love the outdoors. And that's certainly something I live by here. And so I wanted to find a way to mesh my love for the outdoors with the city and pitch something that represented that passion I have. So I pitched a story about taking public transit to get to the trailhead, and the travel editor there liked it. And we went back and forth a lot on, exactly what we'd be talking about, but I was able to find 6 or so trails in the city that you can get to either by bike or the L, our fast rail, or even the Metro, which is like the commuter train. So I think everything from like having this idea that was really personal to seeing it in like a big print newspaper was just something I was really proud of. And it was like a 6-month from the time I pitched it to the time it went live. Wow. So it was kind of cool to see it come together.
Yeah, that's awesome too, because there's such a big readership that hopefully you're really getting a ton of people outdoors who might not have been able to or thought of it before. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. And, people like have so many more ideas that I didn't even include, and friends that I've met through Mappy Hour, at meetups, and have either said like, hey, like when I introduce myself and I start talking about the trails I like to go to, like had learned that I had written that one story, but also like we're able to share so many other trails and things that they got to by using public transit. And so it's a great conversation starter and just reminder that we all like have unique insights to share with each other. And it's cool to have had that story bring me so many opportunities to meet and learn about other places here.
Totally. And okay, so I want to take a step back on that. When you were pitching them, it sounds like was this your first pitch to the Tribune?
It was my first pitch. There's kind of another unique circumstance, which is a reason why I love writing too, is like sometimes people see my articles online, and people meaning like brands or, organizations in the city. And like, I'll get invited to something just to experience it and possibly write about it. So I was invited, this is a really funny story. I was invited to go on a hiking trip in the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. And it was with like a celebrity that was going to be there. And it ended up being Derek Huff, the guy from Dancing with the Stars. I had no idea who he was before, but I think if you saw him, you'd know who he is.
Like Conrad Anker? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just like, sure, I'll go hiking. And the travel editor was there that day that I got invited. And so I had met her before I pitched her, but being able to like reference that was really helpful. But long story short, like, I think getting work out there where you can online and publishing yourself where you can, no matter the name brand of the magazine or newspaper you're writing for, is only going to open up more opportunities for you to do so. So take the small things that get you noticed, and like you might be able to start building relationships that you wouldn't have had otherwise, and maybe go on a dunes hike with a dancer who wears
Pro tip.
Skinny jeans and leather boots on his hike, but is a really great guy.
That's hilarious. I feel like that's its own article.
Yeah.
So do you have a dream publication where, that's kind of like the holy grail of being a writer, of getting your work in X magazine or newspaper?
Yeah. I have 2 answers. My easy one, like my easy go-to, is like the New York Times, or that status symbol of like having that opportunity to write for such a well-known publication. I don't know. It's a challenge that seems unattainable at sometimes, but I want to go for it eventually. And then the other answer is that I've put my filled up my plate with all my freelance writing activities. I haven't really started my own publication. And that is as simple for me as like a blog. Like I haven't actually taken the time to do that. So it's another kind of publication that I could see myself doing one day, is like building out my own media arm or something to help just share stories I want to whenever I want to.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I feel like for the New York Times, that is my holy grail of publications.
Yeah.
And not just the status of it, but being able to think of a pitch and a story that's important enough and big enough and well researched enough to make it there is like so exciting. And every time I get an idea for a story, I'm like, is this good enough? And I haven't found the one yet that I'm like, this is the like investment I'm gonna make. But I find that like just the idea of the writing is also like very exciting for something like that.
Yeah. No, we share the same sentiment. Like, it would be a really awesome opportunity.
2020.
And it's like the pitch part is like getting over that fear of like putting something out there. Cause sometimes you think it's like, this could be my only shot to like really impress this travel editor. Yeah. I don't think that's totally true. Like, I think they get lots of pitches. And so it is important to put your best foot forward and send them something that you know will impress them. But I also think like building up the confidence to keep trying if you don't get it the first time is key.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Because, and also editors change all the time. I feel like it's just keep trying. Cool. Well, so do you have any other tips for members of the Arcteryx community who are looking to become writers or, get their foot in the door in this crazy world of freelancing?
Yeah. I would say like you're always going to have to point to work you've done in order for an editor to take you seriously. So whether that's, like I mentioned, like having your own type of blog that you keep your own content on and can share your work is important. Also, like I said, taking the small gigs in order to build your way up to the big leagues, like that's important too. So I think it starts first with building a portfolio, and it doesn't even have to be like 12 stories. I think like 3 like key stories you're proud of, and also a mix. Like if you can have an online article and maybe you did some writing for a blog for someone else's blog, and then you have your own, a few kind of diverse pieces of writing that you've done that you can show to an editor is really helpful. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think too, that relationship building thing is key. And knowing who you're pitching and what you're pitching to. So like, I think an editor can tell that you are like the real deal and someone to listen to, and you can compliment them on a story they wrote. Pitch an idea that fits into an exact column in the magazine, not just saying, I want to write a story for Backpacker magazine, saying I have a playlist, which is a column they have. I have a playlist pitch idea for you, and here it is. And also having a story that hasn't been written about before. I've made the mistake before of pitching an article idea that publication is covered. And I think sometimes it is okay to pitch a topic that maybe it's 6 years, but even referencing that, saying, hey, I know you guys put together a roundup of this type of thing a few years ago. I'd love to do a refresh on it, and here's kind of my new take.
Right.
So yeah, really knowing your stuff and not rushing the angle you're taking and who you're pitching is really key.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to run a publication that was all about car-free getaways, and I got more than one pitch that was like road trip related. And you get that and you're like, you got the travel part of the site, but you missed like the whole other half of the site, which was about not using cars. So I feel like like knowing what the site's about and what the story they're trying to tell as like a publication is pretty essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say too, there's some freelance writers out there who, both freelance writers and editors who post on Twitter about opportunities that they're either working on that you can see, like, where are my other freelance writing peers writing? And also editors who are looking for certain types of stories to be covered. And I think Twitter I'm not a Twitter user really, but I go on there just to find opportunities. And so searching different hashtags like freelance gig or freelance writing, travel writing, you might be able to stumble across some editors looking for certain types of opportunities and pitches. And so identifying some people who are already looking for help, and that's maybe where you get some of the smaller gigs first, to kind of build your portfolio is maybe a good place to start too.
Yeah, that's an awesome recommendation. Cool. And how can people find you?
Yeah, I like to go by One Curious Traveler. It's my Instagram handle. It's One Curious TRVLR on Instagram. And so you can find me there. I also have a portfolio built out on Authory, AUTHORY, and it has all my articles on there. So if you Google my name and Authory, you'll find me as well. And maybe one day I'll report back and have a blog that you can follow. But I think Instagram is probably a good place to start.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Hope to see you guys and meet you all.